Geometry Dash might have been running the longest magic trick on YouTube, but it's us that he beat blindfolded for 11 years. Pause for 1 second and zoom in on the edge of the monitor, because that tiny strip of pixels is why the Geometry Dash community is suddenly talking about WorldGame again, and why so many people are saying, my childhood was a lie. If you've been around GD for any amount of time, you've probably seen WorldGame's Geometry Dash with Closed Eyes series. The whole premise was simple and crazy at the same time. He sits down, puts on a blindfold, starts a main level, and then beats it without seeing anything. Those videos pulled millions of views and became a piece of Geometry Dash nostalgia for a lot of people. The most famous one is Clubstep Blindfolded. In that upload, he claims it took 2.1 million attempts and 100 million jumps. If the attempt count were real, it would be one of the highest attempt totals ever claimed for a completion in the game's history. For years, the easiest explanation was attempt lying. People assumed the number was exaggerated for effect, but the completion itself was still real. But the reason this is trending now is because a new expose argues it goes deeper than exaggerated stats. The claim isn't just the number is fake, the claim is that the blindfold completions may have been edited. To be fair from the start, there is still a very small chance that the achievements are legitimate. Most viewers can't perfectly recreate the exact recording setup or prove every step beyond doubt. But the evidence people are pointing to is specific enough that it has reopened a conversation that stayed quiet for years. The core allegation is that WorldGame used a video editing method called masking. Masking is when an editor stacks one clip on top of another, then crops out parts of the top clip so the clip underneath becomes visible. It's commonly used in visual effects work, and in normal editing, it can be totally harmless. But if you apply it creatively, it can also be used to make two different recordings look like one continuous moment. Here's the basic theory being shared. First, he records himself doing the blindfold performance. That means the intro where he puts the blindfold on, then plays the level while keeping his mouse hand as still as possible. In that clip, he can die early on purpose over and over. Second, he records a separate clip where he completes the level normally without a blindfold. Third, he layers the blindfold clip on top of the real completion clip and uses masking so the areas showing gameplay and certain parts of the hand reveal the real run underneath. The result would look like he's beating the level blindfolded, even though the gameplay you're seeing is coming from a different recording. This is where a lot of viewers start connecting dots, because there are a few patterns in the videos that always felt strange even before the expose. One pattern is the setup, then first try vibe. In many of his videos, he does the full blindfold routine and then the completion happens immediately, like it's the first real attempt we're watching. But if someone claims millions of attempts, that implies hours and hours of grinding while blindfolded. And yet, there's no long raw session footage showing that process. Another pattern is how still his right hand often looks. People argue that if you're relying entirely on muscle memory and audio cues, you'd expect more micro movement, more adjustments, more natural inconsistency. A super still hand isn't proof by itself, but it becomes suspicious if the editing theory is correct, because a still hand is much easier to mask cleanly. Then come the receipts that viewers say show masking artifacts. The biggest one is the early monitor edge issue. In several older videos, people claim you can see the level's starting color faintly along the edge of the monitor, as if the gameplay layer underneath is bleeding through. In some cases, the accusation goes further and says you can even see attempt artifacts moving along the edge while he's dying at the start of the level. If those observations are accurate, that's the kind of mistake you'd expect from a mask that isn't perfectly aligned. In later videos, when that edge leak is harder to spot, people point to other inconsistencies. Some claim there are moments where the reflections along the edge of the monitor don't match. Others point to what they describe as a visible mask cut line around the wrist or parts of the room. And then there are the hand moments that made this blow up. Viewers highlight frames where a finger appears to morph, get clipped, or shift unnaturally. WorldGame exposed: one blindfold frame on the monitor edge changes everything. Geometry Dash. That's why so many reactions sound emotional instead of technical. You see comments like, "My childhood is a lie," and "I think we were the ones blindfolded," because for a lot of people, these videos were part of their early experience with the game. So where does that leave things? If the allegations are correct, then this wasn't a blindfolded gameplay legacy. It was a long-running visual effect illusion. If the allegations are wrong, then this is one of the most unfair dogpiles a creator could face. And because most viewers can't reproduce the exact editing setup and prove every detail beyond question, the only way to truly settle it is simple. A clean live proof attempt, one continuous recording, monitor capture and hand cam, no cuts, no overlays. Beat a level blindfolded in real time, even if it's not club step, something that clearly shows the inputs matching the gameplay in one unbroken take. Until something like that happens, the reason this story is trending is because the accusations are specific, visual, and easy to understand. When you see a possible mask edge, or a finger clip, or a screen bleed, it doesn't feel like an abstract debate. It feels like something you can pause and verify with your own eyes. The proof was on the edge of the screen the whole time.